Hello. Couldn't find my brush today. Um, I went to the doctor yesterday for gastroenterology. I got pretty mad at him and I made it pretty evident by almost glaring at him. I gave him a look many times. And because he came in and pretended to care, but then he gave me the same solutions every gastroenterologist would give. So prednisone's not working to cure my flare anymore. But so he wants me to get a colonoscopy, which I feel that I should. But it's just never they figure out anything new from the fucking colonoscopy. You know? Not the prescribed treatment really changes, unless it really is a lot worse this time, which maybe, I don't know. I just know it's not healing this time, or it used to with prednisone. So one thing I thought was my bones feel pretty weak right now. I've already discussed that I have trouble walking because of dizziness. It feels like my whole body wants to lean to the left when I walk. It's not really that bad unless I'm just getting out of bed, because my head doesn't have time to calibrate before I have to run to the bathroom. But it's still kind of a thing where that used to be easier for me. In high school, I could just kind of hop up and run to the bathroom before I got dizzy. But also in high school, I was constipated. It wasn't, well, I had stomach problems, but it wasn't really diagnosed as anything at that point. I'm trying to massage my stomach right now. It hurts. I just ate a tiny pickle and a half. And I was going to try to make some instant mashed potatoes, but I feel completely drained. So I can't eat anything else right now. Sometimes I think this is my fault, as I've already discussed, because well, I don't think in terms of how God or Jesus views us that anything is our fault. It's just that we made mistakes, and I didn't really know where else to go when I was with my ex-husband. In my mind, I felt very stuck, and that's when I developed ulcerative colitis. Like I said, I had stomach issues before that, but they weren't as bad. And I had problems with energy at that point too, and dizziness and paranoia. And at that point, I don't think it was PTSD, because PTSD, in my experience, I think is related to things that shock and startle you and put you kind of in a frightened state. So at that point, when I was working at Ace Hardware, it was I think I was still afraid everyone was going to hurt me, but it wasn't and things still caught me off guard in a way. It just wasn't as full blown as it is now. And at that point, I didn't really think I could get any help, because I kind of thought I was the only one experiencing this, and I didn't really have words for it. My ex-husband said what I was experiencing was paranoia, which helped to some degree, maybe for a week or two, or some moments here and there where I could label, oh, this is paranoia, but it didn't really stop the paranoia. And I guess my own choices to be with other men who were, abusive and invalidating me is part of what made this worse. But I mean, that's what I learned from my family, so I just kind of had to get out of that pattern on my own. And I started to recognize it after I left my ex-husband, that I felt I didn't know who I was anymore, because of how many times he'd invalidated me. And he might say this story differently, but it's that's what happened. And I guess I spent too much time thinking, well, what would he say? I already know what he would say, because he told me everything he already thought. Whereas I was pretty quiet. Sometimes I would yell at him when he'd been like preaching at me for fucking 3 hours and wouldn't let me get off the couch to just go do what I wanted. Like I said, he took the doorknobs off the doors besides our bedroom door, but the other bedroom he took the doorknob off, and the bathroom he took the doorknob off so I couldn't lock myself in, which made me feel very violated when I was in the bathroom, because like when you live in a tight space with somebody, and this is a tiny like university housing apartment, it's already kind of hard enough, and you don't want like all your shit to be public. I'm kind of like in situations like that, I like being fairly private. But I don't know, anybody might want like privacy in the bathroom. And he could hear me whether the doorknob was there or not, but I mean, he could hear me better that the doorknob was gone, you know, because it's like a direct pathway. And the living room is just around the corner. So that made me feel pretty fucking self-conscious. He did try to help me sometimes because I was struggling with like constipation. He would help me try to figure things out, but it just never really did any good. Because I think he, like me at that point, which is, I guess, how you attract these partners, is like invalidating yourself all the time. Thought I wasn't doing enough. So, whatever. I don't know. At that point, I was like pretty too, but sometimes my face would be kind of like washed out because of like how upset I was and how like deranged I felt, and just like I fit in nowhere with anybody, and I wasn't getting support, and I didn't have help for my problems. I try to see counselors sometimes. One time I explained everything like my ex-husband had been doing, like he wouldn't let me bake because he wanted the flour not to go in between the cracks in the counter, because there was like a crack between the oven and the counter on both sides. And he would find reasons why I couldn't do anything I loved and then try to get me involved with what he loved. So I tried golfing, I tried camping, things I really don't care about. Camping would be fun in some extent if I was alone and my body was working again and I could go hike. Because if I keep it at a somewhat normal pace, I can hike okay. Not now, but usually I could. And hopefully my body gets back to that point. But there was a thing in high school and throughout my life where I couldn't really go upstairs. I would just be like breathing so heavy by the time I got up, even if I was walking slow. So I would try to cover up that I was breathing so heavy and try to take small breaths when I really just needed to gasp for air at the top of like 16 steps. And I don't think it's because I was out of shape and I wasn't really eating a lot. I didn't necessarily have a healthy diet, but I attributed it to like that I thought I was out of shape, but it was more of the beginnings of what I currently go through, which currently it feels like a physical disability, but yeah, that was difficult, pretending that I could breathe when I got to the top of the steps. And then when I like would think no one was looking, which they probably were, I would like gasp. But I'd try to breathe slowly for like 4 breaths, so I was basically suffocating myself, trying to look like I could breathe when I got to the top of the stairs. And I would go on hikes with my boyfriend in high school and with his family sometimes. And I would be gasping for air there too. And he's like, "Are you okay?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I'll be all right," because I was always trying to be tough, you know, but I was really struggling to like have enough air as I was walking uphill. This pretty much only happened when I was walking uphill. I could walk, you know, on a flat surface pretty easily. I was always just trying to prove to myself I could get through stuff, which I think has like two purposes. And like that now I know whatever pain I'm in, I can get through something. Which I already kind of knew, but I wanted to like prove it to myself over and over. But it kind of did something to damage my body because it wasn't really equipped to deal with certain types of exercises. So I was kind of abusing myself, but I didn't really know it at the time. But it did help like strengthen my mind because it kind of had like, well, I've always had kind of an unstoppable attitude, even if my body's not working. Like right now, that's still my attitude, even though I can't move around very much. But yeah, I went to Walgreens and tried to pick up prescriptions because I'm getting the colonoscopy in like 3 days. This is if I can get someone to go with me, which I barely know anybody here. I'm gonna ask one of my roommates, and I don't want him to know my business, so I'm not gonna tell him what the thing is, but see if he can accompany me. I already asked the lady I knew from the church, and she hasn't texted me back. Figure she could at least say no, but she hasn't even texted me. Yeah, okay, a little tired, bye.